Look around you this morning. There's no escaping it. It's in magazines, on television, it's in the boardrooms and the classrooms. Sometimes it's blatant, and sometimes it's gentle and thoughtful. But wherever and however it comes to us, one thing is for sure: sex is here to stay, and each one of us must learn how to deal with it, whether we are adults or teenagers. I'm Joseph Feinstein, and today on Teen Talk, we've gathered a panel of youngsters together to talk honestly about sex and what it means to them. Welcome, panel. Welcome to Teen Talk. Today's program was sparked by a recent letter I received from a 17-year-old who passionately and with great conviction said that our biggest psychological hang-up is sex. She pointed out that the 1.4 million teen pregnancies may be because youngsters like yourselves receive little information at home or school about sex. Adults are so hung up on sex that they fail to teach how sexual responsibility can ward off these problems. How do you react to that? How do you feel about that? Cricket, let's start with you.
There's no question that the way you're raised and the attitudes around your home have everything in the beginning to do with how you feel about everything, including sex. And since sex is usually fairly taboo or it's not mentioned in one way or another, you don't find that when you get to school and you're around other people and when you're mature enough that sex is beginning to be an alternative or a possibility for action, you don't find that you're adequately prepared to cope with it unless your family has given you any kind of grasp or grip on how you should feel.
Well, let's go from the general to the specific. Did your parents give you this kind of information, and do you feel capable and whatever?
I feel capable. I don't recall any specific information ever being given. I don't recall ever specifically discussing it with my parents. I recall my mother finding my birth control pills at one point and it being one of those, I don't know, my family is very subtle about things, and all the attitudes and opinions are definite but subtly conveyed, and you're never really allowed to talk about anything that's really on your mind. We never really discussed it. I don't know how I know as much as I know.
It's just that you know it.
Yeah.
Well, every time I wanted to talk with my kids about sex, they wanted to go, they wanted to go somewhere else. They never wanted to talk about this with me, and every time I remember when I was a kid wanting to talk about sex with especially my father, he would just wipe me out, just totally shine me and say, "I'll see you later," kind of thing. What about you,
I
Megan?
think a lot of it has to do with the feelings that are felt by the parents. I mean, not only is it, okay, I'm going to talk to my kid now, I'm going to sit them down and talk to them about sex. It's not only that. If the parent feels uncomfortable about talking about sex to their kids, it's going to be somehow conveyed to the kid, and the kid is going to understand that without even it ever being said.
What happened to Megan, with mommy or with daddy?
Well, I have a very, very functional family. My family are my best friends. My mom, my dad, my older sister Heather.
Your allowance is going up.
Please. No, we have a lot of communication. And I feel that I would be lost without my parents. I know a lot about sex, and I really don't know how you can do it I don't know any other way besides doing it on your own. I mean, besides doing it with your parents.
Right.
And
well, you can do it on your own too. That is always a possibility.
Yeah, I'm sure. But they sat me down, and it was funny because the questions, came up as my sister, for instance, when she would say, "Mom, what's happening? What's going on with your belly?" And my mom would say, "Well, there's a baby in it." And she'd be content with that for a while, and then she'd go, "Well, how did the baby in the belly get there?" And then it would kind of progress. And I think if the parents are, it doesn't mean that you have to sit your toddler down and tell them about, everything.
That's true, but the fact that your sister was 21 at the time she was asking is a little bit, no, I'm only teasing. Only teasing. Well, did you have a hard time with talking about sex with your family, Giovanna?
I had the mother that always wanted to talk about sex. She'd always say, "Well, you have any questions?" And I'd always go to my sisters. I was blessed and fortunate enough to have 5 brothers and sisters ahead of me, so I could always go to them. But I have a really close family, just as Megan does, and my family is also my best friends. We always it's always been easy for us to talk about it. My mom, my dad, they basically know everything about me and what I do anyway. So.
Well, from your vantage point, and I'm getting the point of view that most of you are kind of, knowledgeable about sex. Do you feel that way? Are you feeling prepared, knowledgeable about sex? Do you feel that way, Diane, right now? You're 18, right?
Right. I don't think that I am completely knowledgeable about sex. I don't think I ever will be, and you will always be learning and always.
I can concur for that. Yes, I
right.
agree. Yeah.
It's funny because I just had to talk about this with my friend last night, and I was saying how I don't feel like I'm not the aggressive type. I always feel like I have to be learning from someone else, and I don't think I'm not. I mean, I am a ready person, and I have been, but it's sort of more like always feeling uncomfortable and not always thinking I'm
Yeah, I think there's always some little bit more to learn. There's always some little bit more to understand. John, let's get the male point of view here a little bit. Are you feeling okay about your sexuality?
For me, it's like her. It's just you're never gonna know everything, and everything you do. It's just you have to take everything one step at a time. For me, I'm just working on this step. And sometimes there's a lot of steps and you don't know which one to take, and sometimes it gets confusing. But I feel as long as I concentrate on the step that I'm at, I'll be able to progress.
One person wrote, "The idea I would like to communicate about sex is that sex is good. It would be best to get the neurosis out of it." How do you react to that, panel? What are some of the neuroses of sex? Vonnie?
Well, I think it's sex is totally okay, and this guy, this philosopher, L. Ron Hubbard, who wrote Dianetics, has said that sex is good if it's done with decency and honesty, and I totally agree with him. And I mean, shoot, it's our only means of reproduction, and I mean, I don't know if you'll really want to reproduce when you're a teenager, but maybe you should learn how to learn about the contraceptics or whatever have you, and use it.
Well, I think of sex as another form of expressing feelings.
Right,
and a
exactly,
way of expressing strong emotional feelings.
If it's done, if you do it, you could probably even help out the relationship.
Well, done with care and done with thoughtfulness and sensitivity.
Right.
Sensitivity, yeah.
Right.
Courtney, how do you feel? What are some of the neuroses of sex that you see around you?
I'm very fortunate in that I talked with a lot of my peers on a daily basis at different high schools and in different locations around the city. And one thing in common that a lot of teens have to say is that they feel that if they were allowed to express themselves more freely and more frequently, that there wouldn't be a lot of the problems that are currently present for teens today.
Well, what happens with these kids? Why are they not allowed to express themselves as easily as you're saying?
As we've stated before, Cricket said sex is looked at as a taboo.
That's right.
A good example of that is with the program that I'm involved with, the Teen Advocate Program. In that program, what we do is we go to different high schools around the South Bay area, and we give lectures and presentations in the classrooms to the teens about sexuality and birth control. We actually show them how to use different methods of birth control. We talk about sexually transmitted diseases. We answer any questions that they have. We talk about a lot of teen-related issues.
How does all of this stuff apply to you personally, Courtney? You're how old now?
I'm 15.
15, okay. You're a young lady. And you have a boyfriend?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so what do you do insofar as your own life is concerned about the things that you tell other people? What do you do for yourself?
As far as the program goes, I've learned a lot, and it's allowed me to learn a lot about my own sexuality and to feel comfortable with my own sexuality. It's allowed me to feel comfortable enough to go as far as I would like to, or
not as far as you like
exactly, or to express, and it's allowed me to be able to express myself and say, well, I only want to go to this point, or whatever the case may be.
Does he understand that?
yes, we
Your
are
boyfriend,
very open. Yeah,
he reads you and he understands you and he complies with your wishes?
I make sure of that.
You do
That-
make
that-
sure,
that-
you little devil. Adri, what about you? What do you see as some of the neuroses of sex?
Well, the way I look at sex is it's something that should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're mature enough, if you feel you're mature enough to have sex, then go right ahead. But you have to, like for me, I feel that people have to know about sex because it's not something you can just, meet somebody and go do it because that's not the meaning of it.
Okay.
It can be very special, and you have to take the steps to make it as special as it can be.
Well, then what would be the difference between sex and making love for you?
Well, sex to me and making love, there's a very big difference.
Big difference.
Making love is being with somebody you care about, bonding in a sense, and it's really special and you're open. You can talk about sex with the person you love before you even have sex. If you can't talk about it and can't be open about it, then it shouldn't be done.
Okay. Cricket, you're 19 and you're living with your boyfriend. Okay, so obviously there's some romantic relationship and there's making love, or is there having sex? Which is it?
It's probably making love. It's probably contributing to our loving relationship. But it's certainly sex. We could make love by just how we feel about each other walking down the street. We could make love by helping each other fix dinner. Everything we do together is making our relationship, our love. But sorry, we have sex, but it's part of our love. We actually have kind of a lot of sex. I'm a very sexual person. I've had a lot of different kinds of sexual experiences. I condone experimentation. I have a lot of controversial attitudes about sex. I condone bisexuality and homosexuality. I condone bestiality. You're not going to get a disease. They're never going to leave you. It's probably kind of a radical attitude. But
I see. Okay. Well, as you know, the way I wrote the question is that if sex is, as one person put it, a warm, intimate, life-giving dimension of a couple's relationship, why should so many people want you not to have such an experience?
I would
Giovanna?
say because of their narrow-mindedness, because of them not being too familiar themselves with sex. I think if people become more open about it, we would reduce teenage pregnancy. We would reduce a lot of mishaps, emotional problems that teens have that should not even exist. I believe that a lot of it comes from the teen feeling so pressured into being a certain way and not being able to be themselves.
One psychologist said that because young people begin and end relationships with such regularity, making love with a person causes us to cling and linger with that person in a bad relationship for longer than we would if we didn't have sex in the first place. In his opinion and mine, this may be another reason against giving yourself to another while you're still so young. Panel, how do you feel about this? Megan, why don't you field that one?
Well, I can see that concern because teenagers do end and begin relationships often, and even if they don't, I had a relationship of about 2.5 years, and I was still sexually active with my boyfriend for months and months after we broke up, and I could see that concern. I think that it's something that people should be concerned about, but not, it's kind of like the Shakespeare thing, is it better, to love and lust than never love at all. And I think making love and any sexual act that brings people closer is a very important thing. And I think that if it means getting your heart broken when you're a teenager and getting over it and learning, I think it's worth it.
Well, it's important. Giovanna, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think that it depends on the individual whether or not they should have sex or, quote, make love to another individual. I don't think that if you make love to an individual and the relationship goes bad, it makes it harder for you to break away from the person.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it really makes it very difficult once you've given yourself and your body and that emotional content. You don't think so? Okay, go ahead.
Because if it's bad and you know it's bad, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
You can also look at a husband and wife situation. Just because she may love, or of course, have sex with her husband, which is quite natural and normal, that it would be harder for her. I think it's more of an emotional thing than the actual action of making love.
The difference is, though, that with a younger person, those emotions are still so raw and they're still so unknown as they would be after you've had lots of experiences. I went with the third girl that I ever dated for 3 years. We went together. And once we broke up, I went out with about 50 women until I met the gal, you know, that I found that I married. But in that interim, I got to know what girls are about and what they like and how to manage my own emotional framework a lot better as a result of it. And I gave myself totally to that first girlfriend for the 3 years, and I stayed in that relationship because it was a bad relationship. I should have left there after a couple of weeks, you know, a couple of hours maybe. But I stayed for 3 years because of that, you know, that sensitivity that said stay with it. How do you feel about this one, Diane?
I think when a person's young and obviously hasn't had the experience, a lot of times younger people haven't really learned how to love themselves. And so when they love another person, they really aren't loving another person. They find that a person's giving them the attention that they want. You want attention. I know when I was younger, to hear that someone liked me, I was and got all excited. But what if I didn't really like that person?
Right.
But only because they did like me, you find yourself all of a sudden consumed by the person and maybe not really in love.
That's very astute. That's really intelligent and mature kind of thinking to, you know, to really understand that the need is such that we do want to be adored and we do want to be, you know, adulated and found comfortable with, especially when we don't feel too great about ourselves in the first place. A lot of people seem to think that at 15 or 16 or 17, you're still too young to engage in sex. We know that having babies without being married and having that thing is not a good idea. We know that transmitting disease these days is not only unhealthy and can create problems, but it can even be fatal because of AIDS and what that means. So 60% of teens under 18 are still having sex. How do you respond to all these young people having sex, even though there's so much danger out there? Adri, you want to take that one?
Well, I think once, like, a lot of teenagers are having sex,
Right.
more than I think in the past generations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think once you feel mature enough and you have sex, that's fine. But there's the people who are having sex at even 12, and I don't think that's right, because I don't think you're mature enough. I mean, I think you're barely going through puberty at 12. Let alone having sex. And I think once you learn enough about it, and if you take the right steps, and if the girls are on birth control at that age, and you're using condoms, then sex is okay. You know, if you're ready to take that step. But otherwise, if you don't know enough about it, then it's not right.
No one can deny that making love to someone you love is beautiful. But it does have its proper time and place. Sex without thoughtfulness, without concern for yourself and your partner, without proper protection and consideration can be harmful. It can create great physical and psychological harm for you, your family, and your friends. From everything that I know as a teacher, psychotherapist, and family counselor, the best sex education still begins and rests within the home. Teenagers need patience, understanding, and attentive listening by mom and dad in order to remove those uncertainties about their sexuality. With that guidance, they will learn to respect and value the precious possession that is their own bodies.